Hi everyone, I'm Lady Teddy. I'm going to be reading to you guys from Magium, which is a text-based choose-your-own-adventure story app that is free on both Android and iOS, and it's really good, and I recommend that if you all are interested in downloading it for yourself, because there's a lot of different paths that you can take. Currently, we are doing a Good Smart Berry read-through. The way that I do this, I know a lot of people like to just go to sleep and listen to my voice and relax, and that's totally okay. There's no pressure to participate. But if you guys do want to participate, the way that I do it is I will read out all of the options. If it's a good or a smart choice, I will make the choice for us. But if it's a conversational choice or just a general direction, I will allow you guys to participate. I'll read the choices out loud. I'll give y'all about a minute, and at the end of it, if people are participating, I'll go with what the majority of the chat has decided. I know that it is the middle of the story, so if anyone has any questions about what's going on, feel free to ask. And if you guys don't want to play it for yourself, but are interested in the story and would like to catch up on your own time, all of my previous read-throughs are in a Magium playlist on my YouTube. Mr. Kennedy, hello, welcome in. Okay, so currently we are... Can you guys see it? Okay, cool. Currently we're in the middle of chapter 7. What's going on? The party has agreed to help pretty much assassinate some bad guys that are giving the King of Thilius trouble. And so that's what they're doing right now. They've got a map and they're on their way to the headquarters where they are aware that the Lysathi heads within the Kingdom of Thilius are having this meeting, and they're going to go and kill them. And let me remember to turn the music off this time. Someone recommended that I try and find like a campfire soundtrack or something for when I do reading. And I was like, that's a good idea. What do you guys think? Should I try and look into that at some point? Can you sense any tunnels that are not on the king's map? Actually, yes. Araka says, there are a few. Let me add them to the map. A few seconds after she's done talking, 3 more blue corridors appear on the hologram that is floating in front of her amulet. Hey look, I say. One of those corridors seems to link one of the tunnels that we'll be taking with one of the Hey look, I say. One of those corridors seems to link one of the tunnels we'll be taking with one of the Seredium tunnels. And that tunnel also leads to the Lysathi headquarters. Yeah, but I can't guarantee that the Seredium tunnel is currently functional. Araka says, like I said, I only put it there because it was on the map. So, where are we going to wait for the next 2 hours? Darren says. Should we go outside or... Oh, no. You should definitely not go outside, Golmik says. If you leave now and come back only a few minutes before the Lysathi's meetings, my servant may get suspicious and contact them in some way. You can wait right here. I don't have any chairs in this room, but I've only just cleaned the floors, so you could sit on the ground if you want. He then stamps 2 more documents and he hands them over to us so we can each take a look at them. There you go, the king says. These papers should be enough to absolve you of your crimes, no matter where you go in Varathia. Now, if there's nothing else you need from me, I will be resuming my work on the Lisathi device that was supposed to send you the instructions related to the tournament's objectives, telepathically. I've been trying to get it fixed for more than a week, and I still can't figure out what's wrong with it, so you can imagine how frustrating this has been for me. As Golmuk goes to work on his device, Hadric puts down his backpack and he reaches within it to pull out a deck of playing cards. So, Hadric says, anyone up for a game of cards? We spend the next hour or so playing a card game that Hadric learned from the Dwarven taverns. Apparently, one of the original rules of the game was that a player needed to take a sip of Dwarven ale every time they lost a hand, but we had to scrap this rule for obvious reasons. The game involved a lot of bluffing, so it was no surprise that Layla was the one who came out on top, given that she could read auras to tell if someone was lying. Since I was the one she could get a read on the easiest because of my spiky aura, I eventually got tired of losing every single match, and I decided to take a break to read from my notebook some more, in hopes of finding some more loopholes that Eden might be using. Hey, Darren, I say, after reading through the notebook for some time. Remember that one time when Eden paralyzed every one of you, right before he teleported us in front of Thelius? What? Darren says as he's trying to focus on his cards while listening to me. Oh, yeah, I remember. What about it? How many spells do you have that protect you against paralysis? I say. Just one, Darren says, and the shield does not protect against paralysis, so it's not protection overload. Okay, I say. Is anyone else using protection against paralysis? Yes, Kate says. I use the spell described in the latest Advanced Theory of Magic book by Azarius. All right, I say. And you, Darren, which protection are you using? The golden one? Darren says. The one that makes a spinning effect with sparkles when you cast it. I say. Okay. So you mean the advanced version of the standard White Mage spellbook. Or the standard version from the standard White Mage spellbook. And Hadric, I assume that you are relying on your partial resistance that comes from being a giant in order to defend yourself from such spells? Yeah, Hadric says, but I got paralyzed completely, just like Kate and Darren, despite my resistance. Uh-huh, I say. Well, do you guys know what these 3 defenses of yours have in common? What? Darren says. Absolutely nothing, I say as I close my notebook, which means that Eden was not using a loophole this time around. In fact, I don't think he was using paralysis at all. He must have been using a completely different type of spell, which has the same effect. Remember that time when Kate's friend left us all unconscious on the ground? She didn't use a sleep spell to do it, she used electricity. I'm suspecting that Eden used a similar method to temporarily paralyze you. Didn't you all feel a shock right before you fell to the ground? I'm pretty sure you must have also felt a few other electric shocks afterwards, which were meant to keep you paralyzed for a longer period of time. Come to think of it, yeah, Darren says. I did feel some electric shocks, but they didn't feel much different from the feeling you get from a normal paralysis, so I didn't really notice the difference at the time. But does this mean that eating can use electricity as an element like Kate's friend? I doubt it, I say. The spell that he used seemed to have certain rules and limitations, which would not be the case if he could use electricity freely as an element. The electric spell that he used to paralyze you felt extremely similar to a spell that I had access to back when my stat device powered up. So it's likely the same one. I don't remember every single detail about it, but it was one of those spells that you could only cast once a day, and I know for sure that the one major drawback of this spell was the fact that the area of effect was extremely small. I mean, you could pretty much just roll over to the side, and the following electrical currents would not target you anymore. The only reason why it worked against you was because you three happened to be standing very close together, and because you didn't know what kind of spell you were up against. If you knew how it worked, then you could have just gotten out of the way at the exact moment when a new electrical current hit you, since the effect of the paralysis wears off for a bit right before each new shock. Yeah, I very much doubt that I could have done that, Darren says, since I was trying to break free of the spell's effect the whole time, and it didn't work. That's because the spell shocks you at faster intervals if it sees that you're trying to break free, I say. It doesn't work that way. You need to be relaxed and only try to escape at the very last second. Of course, you can't know how often it will shock you can't know how often it will shock you until you let yourself get shocked a few times, while counting the number of seconds for each interval. The intervals will not always be of the same length, but there will usually be a pattern that you can figure out. Once you're sure that you've got the count right, you can wait for the last moment, and only then you try to escape. Obviously, the easier way around this would be to use protection against electricity, but with the amount of energy it takes to keep that protection up and running, you'd have to be insane to use it at all times, on the off chance that you'd get attacked by an electrical spell other than the standard ones. Hadrick says, not that I want to interrupt you or anything, but we should really hurry up if we want to finish the game before we leave. We've only got about half an hour before the Lysathi meeting, and everyone except Layla still has at least 6 cards left in their hands. Hang on, sorry. Once Hadrick and the others finish their game, we leave our backpacks in the care of King Golmick, and we all get ready to descend into the tunnels below. Be careful, Golmick says before we leave. The Lysathi may not be mages, but their highly advanced magical devices make them into as big a threat as some of the most skilled participants that have joined this tournament. I would have given you more information about them, but unfortunately the only thing I know is that the one wielding 2 scythes is using electrical. But unfortunately, the only thing I know is that the one wielding 2 scythes is using electrical attacks. The functions of the other devices are still unknown to me. Well, I say, at least we know who will be targeting first. The king opens a trapdoor which leads to the underground corridors, and and an extension ladder drops down, allowing us to reach the floor of the tunnel safely. We climb down one by one, and once we all reach the lower level, Golmik wishes us luck. And he pulls the ladder back up, closing the trapdoor with a loud thump. Looking up, I can barely tell that there had been an open trapdoor in the ceiling above us only seconds ago. The texture of the secret door blends perfectly with the rocky surface of the ceiling and walls, making it completely hidden unless you know exactly where to look for it. We travel through the corridors for a few minutes, making sure to carefully follow the directions that the king gave us, while periodically asking Araka if she doesn't sense any guards on our way to the Lysathi headquarters. "Look, the Lysathi are starting their meeting," Flower says as she points towards several green dots that are now moving inside the Lysathi headquarters from Araka's hologram. "A little earlier than they were supposed to, but not by much," Darren says as he looks towards the hologram in front of Flower. "We should still make it there before they finish. It won't be long until we reach the last corridor, and then..." He stops in his tracks as he looks towards the hologram with a thoughtful expression on his face. Darren says as we all stop to look at him. "Araka, this is where you said that there's a tunnel that wasn't marked on the king's map, right?" "Yeah," Araka says. "There's probably a lever or something hidden inside the wall that would open the secret door." "And you're sure that this tunnel leads directly to that tunnel over there that goes to the headquarters?" Darren says. "I already told you," Araka says. "I don't know what this tunnel leads to. It may be another tunnel, or it may be a dead end as far as I know. Not to mention that even if it leads to a tunnel, there's no guarantee that it won't be filled with guards, since I can't see anything inside it." "Darren, why are you so interested in that tunnel all of a sudden?" Patrick says. "Why can't we just go on the path that we were already following?" "I don't know," Darren says. "It's just that these completely empty tunnels are giving me an uneasy feeling. I get that the Lysathi already posted guards at the entrances that they know of, but to not encounter any sort of resistance on our way to their headquarters seems way too convenient." "I think you're worrying over nothing. I agree. What if they already know that the king's servant was being followed?" I'm inclined to go... I feel like Smartberry would go with this one. But if y'all would like to pick the other one, that's fine. Yeah. Now, these are the two options. Now is your chance. I'll give y'all about a minute. Alright, so it's tied. Top choice and bottom choice. Although I did say that I was inclined to go with this one. So I probably will go with this one, although I kind of want to go with that one, because I'm pretty sure that we die with this one, so I'm gonna go with this one, and then I'll go back. Yeah, exactly. I like leading you guys to your deaths. I think you're worrying over nothing. Yeah, Darren, Hadrick says. It's not like they have any reason to suspect that we're heading their way. Besides, if anything happens, we can always use their fancy magical weapons to defend ourselves. Besides, if anything happens, they can always use their fancy magical weapons to defend themselves, so it's not like a few extra guards would be much help for them. I suppose you're right, Darren says. Come on, Hedrick says. We should be there in a minute or two. Maybe they'll have some guards posted in front of their meeting hall that will put your worries to rest. Premonition check failed, level 4. As we make our way further into the tunnel, I begin to ask myself if choosing not to enter the secret corridor really was the best decision. This tunnel is still as empty as ever, and I cannot deny that I'm also starting to get a bit of an eerie feeling as we get closer to our destination. I do not have the time to ask myself these questions much longer, because a few seconds later, the whole area around me is covered in a huge explosion, which sends the ceiling crashing down upon us and kills me in an instant. Alright. I agree. What if they already know that the king's servant was being followed? Oh, by the way, this game has stat devices. Or it has he has a stat device that has stats, and these are the available ones. I have 6 available stats, so I am able to change things. If you guys end up wanting me to, what he has right now is hearing, observation, ancient languages, and strength. You guys really think that this might be a trap? Hadrick says. It's possible, Darren says. I mean, the king already told us that the Lisathi have spies of their own in the city. They also have listening devices in the king's throne room, so they know that we went into Golmik's secret room twice so far. Even if they don't know about the secret trapdoor, they'd have to be pretty careless to leave themselves completely undefended during their meeting. As long as the other corridor leads to where we want to go, I don't have a problem with changing routes, Kate says. Well, if nobody else is against the idea, then I guess I'll go open the path for us, Hadrick says. Yes, Darren says as Hadrick heads towards the wall that leads to the secret tunnel. As long as we know which wall leads to the tunnel, finding the secret lever that opens it shouldn't be that. Before Darren gets to finish his sentence, Hadrick reaches the wall and he punches right through it, making it crumble into pieces. Seriously, Darren says as he smacks his forehead with the palm of his hand. Do you have to do this every single time? Relax, Hadrick says. The Lisathi are too far away to hear us, and if there really are guards on the other side, it's not like we'd have any way to sneak past them. It's a direct path to the It's a direct path to the Lasathi headquarters from here. No way around. Fine, let's get going. Fine, let's keep going, Darren says. We'll see soon enough if choosing this path was a mistake or not. Achievement unlocked. Found the culprit. Hearing check successful, level 2. Ancient languages check successful, level 3. We travel through the secret tunnel without encountering any form of resistance. When we reach the end of it, Hadrick takes a quick glance around Hadrick takes a quick glance towards the rest of us, and then he punches through the wall, clearing our way to the Ceridium corridor. As we look around us, we see that this tunnel is just as empty as the other ones. Araka, Aluna says, Do you sense any guards? Nope, Araka says. It's empty. No magical traps either. Don't know about regular traps, though. Well, regular traps tend to get triggered by stepping on the ground, Hedrick says, so I'll just make sure to throw some rocks ahead of us on a regular basis to see if anything explodes. I'm the one with the tough giant skin here, so I'll go in front. If anything triggers, I should be able to handle it. Remember to suppress your auras as much as you can, Darren tells us as we advance through the corridor. We wouldn't want the Lasathi to detect us before we reach them. I suddenly hear a voice at the far end of the corridor. It doesn't take me long to recognize it as being the voice of the Lasathi that came to visit me while I was in my cell below the arena. I also seem to be able to hear the other Lasathi from the meeting, although it takes a bit of effort to focus on their words. That does indeed seem to be our only alternative, says the soft-spoken Lasathi who visited my cell in the Lasathi language. Sorry. That does seem like our only alternative, the soft-spoken Lasathi who visited my cell in the Lasathi language. Allendor has already been isolated from most of Varathia, so the rest of the kingdoms will most likely not care if Thilius decides to cut all diplomatic ties with Allendor as well. The gnome is probably going to do this either way, so there should be no reason for us to intervene. Allendor is the least of our worries right now, says another Lasathi. Do you have any idea how many mages have died since the beginning of this tournament? This is why I've insisted from the very beginning that the tournament should have had a rule that prohibit the mages from killing each other unless the rules of the tournament explicitly required them to. We've talked about this before, the soft-spoken Lasathi says in a calm tone. The kings would not agree to it, remember? They said that it was against the Varathian tradition to impose such a rule in a tournament, even if the participants are all outsiders. To hell with the kings and their outdated traditions, the other Lasathi says. Don't you understand? They've ruined everything. Why did I even bother to sabotage the telepathic device that telepathic device meant to transmit the objectives if the mages were just going to kill each other before the first round anyways? You've been complaining about this in every single meeting that we've had since the beginning of the tournament, another Lasathi says. Give it a rest already. What's done is done. Let's just focus on the presentation. Let's just focus on the present, shall we? Perry, Darren whispers. Over here. As I take a look towards Darren, I realize that while I was listening to the Lasathi conversation, we'd already reached our destination. The corridor that we are currently in and the corridor that we left from seem to both reunite in this point, and they lead to a much narrower hallway which has a door at the end. On the other side of the door, the Lasathi are still holding their meeting, and they don't seem to have noticed us. I joined Darren and the others in the narrow hallway as we prepared to storm the meeting room on his signal. Ancient Languages check successful, level 3. Just as we prepared to charge into their headquarters, I suddenly feel an electric shock all throughout my body, and I fall to the ground, unable to move. The same thing happened to all of my friends because they're now lying on the ground beside me. This spell, could it be? As we all lie on the ground, unable to break free from the spell's effects, the door in front of us opens, and the 4 Lasathi that were participating in the meeting are now slowly advancing towards us. They are all wearing their signature dark blue robes with their hoods up, and each of them seems to be carrying a different type of weapon. Welcome, friends, the soft-spoken Lasathi who came to visit me in my cell below the arena, says the soft-spoken Lasathi who came to visit me in my cell below the arena in the common language. I believe that I've already had the pleasure of meeting some of you, but the others may not know who I am. It doesn't matter, because we will be the ones asking the questions, and you will be the ones answering. Do I make myself clear? They can't answer you, idiot, the other Lasathi says another Lasathi in the Lasathi language. The spell paralyzes them completely. They are unable to talk. Where are your manners? The soft-spoken Lasathi says in the common language. These are our guests. We should all speak in the common language so they can understand us. Is this supposed to be some sort of joke? The Lasathi from before says, still in the Lasathi language. You've always had a bad sense of humor. Well, it doesn't matter if you want to speak in common or not, the soft-spoken Lasathi says. We don't need more than one person to interrogate them anyways. I told you that this would happen, another Lasathi says, also in the common language. That idiotic king's servant was never the type that could tell when he was being followed. Indeed, the soft-spoken Lasathi says. Your idea to leak the time and place of our meeting to the king's servant was definitely worth the effort. What I don't understand, however, is how they managed to avoid the explosion trap. I should have expected them to take the same route to our headquarters as the one that the king's servant usually takes when coming here. Do you suppose that the king actually has a map of the underground tunnels? It doesn't really matter, the Lasathi from before. What matters is that we get as much information from them as possible. There's no use trying to interrogate the ones who can't talk due to the paralysis. Only the two Lysathi should be able to speak right now. We'll just quickly find out what we need to know, and then we'll get rid of them. These cocky bastards, they're using Eden's paralysis spell. I'm sure of it. This narrow corridor is the perfect place to set up such a trap. And the periodic shocks I'm getting are definitely electric in nature. Due to my partial resistance to electricity that I get from being a Lysathi, it should be easy enough for me to find the right time window to spring out of the spell's area of effect. And I'm pretty sure that Layla is in the same situation as me. The others might take a bit longer to get the timing right, though, since the windows they'll get will be extremely short. As I lie there on the ground, a very small, barely noticeable, semi-transparent message appears right in front of my eyes, written in blue text. "Don't free yourself yet," Layla's text says. "Wait for the others to get accustomed to the shocks. I'm also sending this message to everyone else. I'll give the signal so we can all free ourselves together at the same exact moment. Attack the first Lysathi that gets close to me, wait for Layla's signal." I feel like the smart choice is to wait for Layla's signal. If someone could argue with me, give me a good reason why Smart Berry would not wait. Now is your chance, otherwise this is what I will pick in about a minute. Well, how did they mimic Layla's communication device that only she can use and is unique to pretty much any other communication device because it was made specifically for her by her father? How were they able to know to mimic that? And also, how were they able to know that these people knew how to free themselves from the trap that they set? "Where the hell did you hide your trap?" Araka shouts all of a sudden. "I've been searching for it since you came out of that door, and I'm not sensing any device that could cast this type of spell." It's unclear to me whether Araka saw Layla's message and is now just trying to buy us some time, or if she's just genuinely frustrated that her magical sense is not good enough to find the trap on her own. If I were to guess, then I'd say it's probably the latter reason. Well, Well, it wouldn't. Well, it wouldn't be much of a trap if you could just detect it before you walked into it now, would it? The soft-spoken Lisathi says. Wait, who are you talking to? The Lisathi that agreed to speak in common. Where did that voice come from? I'm talking to the Banshee in the amulet, of course, the soft-spoken Lisathi says. Araka, I believe is the name. I heard that she was trapped in there by a rogue group of Lisathis some 20 years ago. At any rate, the Banshee is not the one that I'm interested in talking to. He then walks towards me, getting within range of the electrical shock spell, but he didn't seem to be affected by it. Could he be using some trinket that gives him protection against electricity? This is the one that I'm interested in talking to, the Lisathi says as he gets closer to me. I honestly wasn't expecting to see you again, fellow Lisathi. You are tenacious, I'll give you that. Well, no matter. This isn't important. What's important is how you managed to reach our location in one piece. Tell me, was it Golmik that gave you the map to the underground tunnels? How were you able to avoid the explosion trap? You know, I was thinking, the Lisathi says. I was thinking, says the Lisathi wielding the scythes, who has been notably silent until now. Why we don't really need to have both of the Lisathi alive for an interrogation, do we? As he talks, we both approach Layla, he slowly approaches Layla, who is lying on the ground, facing down with her head towards him. What are you talking about? The soft-spoken Lisathi says as he takes his eyes off of me and turns to face his comrade. Of course we need them alive. Yeah, but you see, the scythe-wielding Lisathi says as he grabs Layla by the hair and he lifts her head so she can get a direct look at his face. I've been itching to kill this little half-breed for a very long time, and I just don't think I can restrain myself much longer. Try to distract the Lisathi by telling him about Eden's message. Wait for Layla's signal. Once again, I feel like Smart would go with this one. If she's dead, she can't give the signal. But I need to drink water, so you guys have got probably about a minute if you want to argue with me. Nobu streams. Trippy is good, right? Oh, you both want to wait for the signal. Just did. Control yourself, the soft-spoken Lasathi says. What's gotten into you? Control myself? The scythes-wielding Lasathi says. That's easy for you to say. You weren't there at the beacon. The very thought that I had to share the same room for extended periods of time with this abomination makes me want to puke. And to make matters worse, there was also that idiot caretaker who used to treat her like she was an actual Lasathi. Disgusting. He then turns towards Layla, and he sees the expression in her eyes change. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you upset because I'm bad-mouthing your father? The Lasathi says. Well, you know what? Your stupid father deserved much worse than the fate he got. Parasites like him should be happy that they're even allowed to live as slaves. They have no place in our society. You may have freed him for now, but we'll get him back, don't worry. And when we do, we're going to give him the fate he truly deserves. The fate of a useless piece of trash. As Layla's eyes fill with rage, she completely forgets about the signal as she jumps on the Lasathi in front of her, thrusting one of her knives directly into his heart. I quickly take advantage of this opportunity, and I also jump to my feet, making sure that I'm just out of the paralyzing spell's range, and aim my dagger at the throat of the Lasathi that was closest to me. The soft-spoken Lasathi was not looking at me, and my attack takes him completely by surprise. He tries to jump backwards, but it's too late, and I manage to slit his throat in one single movement. Toughness check failed, level 4. Damn it, one of the other Lasathi says as he sticks a trident-like weapon into a wall. About a second later, a very large hand made of stone comes out of the wall behind me, and it closes its fist around me, attempting to crush me. I try to break free, but I simply don't have any room to move my arms. It only takes a few seconds for the stone hand to tighten its grip and to crush all of my internal organs, killing me in an instant. Load game. I think y'all saw that coming. Yeah. These Lasathi is a race. It's not like they're not human. They're like a race that evolved from human. And they're not all bad, because not all Lasathi are bad. But the Lasathi that's an organization sucks. Yeah, because Barry and Layla are both Lasathi, but they're not bad. Achievement unlocked. Message delivered. Hey, I just remembered something, I say. Eden asked me to give you a message. He said that you should remember the still winter. What did you just say? The scythe-wielding Lasathi says as he drops Layla's head, and he stares at me with a mixture of shock and fear in his eyes. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him, the soft-spoken Lasathi says. He's trying to goad you into doing something stupid. So, you're saying that I should just shut up and let Eden's lackey provoke me? the scythes-wielding Lisathi says, furious. Furious? Is that it? I'm saying that you should calm down and be rational about... Now! I see Layla's message floating in front of my eyes, and I immediately jump to my feet, making sure that I'm just out of the paralyzing spell's range, with my dagger aimed at the throat of the Lisathi in front of me. The soft-spoken Lisathi was not looking at me, and my attack takes him completely by surprise. He tries to jump backwards, but it's too late, and I manage to slit his throat in one single movement. At the exact same time, Layla also jumped at the scythes-wielding Lisathi, and she twists a knife into his heart before he gets the... At the exact same time, Layla also jumps at the scythes-wielding Lisathi, and she twists the knife into his heart before he gets the time to react. A mere second later, before the other two Lisathi even have the time to understand what's going on, Kate jumps backwards, getting out of the trap's range, and she extends her arm, pointing her palm towards one of the Lisathi, who is wielding a trident-like weapon. An ice cone then shoots out of her palm and impales the Lisathi right in the heart. It impales the Lisathi right in the head. Darren, Hadrick, and Flower are, however, still lying on the ground paralyzed, which means they must have messed up their timing. All of a sudden, the last remaining Lisathi raises an emerald-encrusted shield he was holding in the air, and a powerful flash of light fills the room, blinding us all for a few seconds. As my eyes readjust, I see that there has been a clash between Layla and the Lisathi while we were blinded, which has led them both to dropping their weapons. Layla is on the ground. Layla is on the ground with her back against the wall, and the Lisathi is now bending over to pick up one of her knives. And the Lisathi is now bending over to pick up one of her knives in order to finish her off. "Help me, Barry!" A big blue text appears in front of me as Layla looks at the Lisathi with a terrified look in her eyes. "Kill the Lisathi, let her handle it." Y'all have about a minute. Ali Harp, thank you so much for the raid. I appreciate you. Welcome in, everyone. How are you doing? For those of you who don't know what's going on right now, I am reading out loud to you guys from Magium, which is a text-based choose-your-own-adventure story app. Currently, we are trying to decide between a big flash of light happened, and when the light cleared, one of the bad guys had one of the good guys pinned, and she is now begging for help from our main character. And so we have to decide, kill the bad guy, who's the Lasathi, or let her handle it. Currently, we have 2 votes for let her handle it and 1 vote for kill the Lasathi. Let her go, bro. She's done. Alright, so. No boost says kill. Will Walk says she can handle it. Betamanette says let her handle it. Allie says kill. Papa Bear, thank you for the first time chat, says let her handle it. Sharky Snacks says kill. So that is a tie. And because I will be the tiebreaker and I like leading you guys down the wrong path, I will make the decision. And I know that the people who are saying let her handle it were thinking that that was the wrong path, but I rushed towards the Lasathi, so we decided to kill. I rushed towards the Lasathi as fast as I can, while holding my dagger with both hands, and I stab him in the heart from behind just as I reach him. As soon as I remove my dagger from him, however, something completely unexpected happens. The form of the Lasathi slowly fades into thin air, and it is replaced by that of Layla. At the same time, the Layla that was on the ground with just a second ago, has turned into the Lasathi, who is now looking at me with a malicious grin. An illusion? No. It can't be. I turn Layla around and I see that her eyes are closed and she is no longer breathing, while the blood stain on her blouse keeps getting larger. Kate is now staring at me with an incredulous look in her eyes, as she seems completely paralyzed, even though she is far away from the trap's range. Taking advantage of my distraction, the Lasathi quickly picks up one of Layla's daggers from the ground, and he slits my throat wide open, causing me to die in the next few seconds. What is this sorcery? It is illusion magic, which most of you guys weren't here for the first book, but illusions that illusions generally have a flash of light if they're like to cover it up. I knew she didn't need no man. No, you thought that this would get her killed and it was the wrong answer. Oh yeah, you can die in this game. You can die in many different ways. There's a stat device, so if you think, oh, I can outrun this boulder, and then you can't, you die. And then also, if you think I can stop this boulder, but you don't have the strength, then you also die. There is always a right answer that you don't need stats for, though. Tell them you're gonna use illusion to have your fist meet its face. I wish that I could say something like that. Honestly, Barry would say something like that. He's notorious for just being sassy in the most stupid way possible. Something is definitely off here, but I can't quite put my finger on it. I'll just wait for a little longer and see what happens. Barry, please, Layla writes again as the Lasathi closes in on her with his dagger, while struggling to find his way towards her due to the lingering effects of the blinding flash from earlier. Damn it. I guess I'll go immobilize the Lasathi for now, and I'll figure out what's wrong later. Just as I'm about to reach the Lasathi, Kate suddenly shoots 3 ice cones into Layla's waist, causing her to scream in pain. Wait, scream? Since when can Layla scream? My question soon gets answered as the Layla that was on the ground slowly fades into thin air, and she's replaced by the Lasathi from before, who is clutching his abdomen, trying desperately to stop it from bleeding. At the same time, the Lasathi that is in front of me turns into Layla, who is now staring at the screaming Lasathi in front of her with her dagger still in her hand. An illusion? It was an illusion all along? How did I not figure this out sooner? While I'm busy questioning myself, Layla wastes no time, and she finishes off the last remaining Lasathi by sending an ice dagger flying into his head. She then turns to look at me, and she shakes her head in disapproval. "Help me, Barry?" she says. "Seriously? When is the last time you've seen Layla play damsel in distress? Especially against a weakling such as this." "Hold on," I say. "You're not going to tell me that Layla's call for help was the only thing that led you to believe she was in fact the Lasathi, are you?" "Actually, that's exactly what I'm going to tell you," Kayla says. "But what if you were wrong?" I ask her, shocked. "Then Darren would have had to cast an extra healing spell," Kate says. "I made sure not to hit any vital spots with my first few cones, just in case, so there would have been no lasting damage." "Wow," I say. I'm not sure how to react to this." "Just react like you always do," Kate says, with a quip. She pauses as she sees Darren and the others start to free themselves from the effects of the paralysis trap. "Come on," Kate says. "We should search their headquarters to see if we could find anything useful. With a little luck, I might find some information about Diane." Did get roasted. Yeah. Papa Bear, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate you. Glad you're enjoying this. That was way too close, Darren says as we all begin to enter the headquarters. "We really need to do something about our vulnerability to electricity." "Yeah," Hadrick says. "I don't think I've felt like having so little control of the situation since that time we got shocked by Kate's elementalist friend. If Barry hadn't figured out how this spell worked before we got here, we would have been goners." Well, I guess it's a good thing that you have a friend who spent his life nerding it up in libraries, I say. "Isn't that right, Darren?" Yeah, Darren says, as we all begin to search the desks in the Lasathi's room. It takes us a few minutes of searching, but we eventually realize that every single drawer is completely empty. Damn, Darren says. Not even a single document. Do you think that they may have emptied out their headquarters before this meeting as a precautionary measure on the off chance that they actually got defeated? They may have done it way before that, I say. If they were already suspecting that the king's servant got followed here, they probably considered this location to be compromised, so they made sure not to leave anything of value in this place. I guess you're right, Darren says. So I suppose we should be getting back to the castle then. Yes, Kate says. I'm definitely not going to find out any information about Diane from this place. Let's go back. You know, I tell Kate as we prepare to exit the headquarters, you could have left the last Lysathi. That is quite the tongue twister. You could have left the last Lysathi alive in order to interrogate him. You already had him more or less immobilized, and with the first set of ice cones that you shot into his abdomen, so he couldn't have been so he shouldn't have been much of a threat. I didn't want to risk it, Kate says. That Lysathi was practically the illusionist of their group, and he may well have had other tricks up his sleeve. It's never a good idea to leave illusionists left alive after a fight. What do you guys think? Should we take these weapons with us? Hadrick says as we pass the Lysathi's corpses. Oh, we definitely should be taking them, I say. I could totally use one of these. I then take the emerald-encrusted shield from the ground and I start swinging it up and down in an attempt to cast a spell with it. I say. I don't recall the Lysathi uttering any incantations before he cast his illusion spell, or before casting the flash of light that he used to hide the illusion from us. Maybe there's a hidden button or something that I'm missing? Let's take these to King Golmick, Darren says. He's a tinkerer. He should be able to make sense of how these weapons work. Whoa, Hadrick says as he jumps back 3 feet after having taken 1 step forward. I almost forgot about that electric trap from earlier. Relax, I say. The spell deactivates automatically as soon as everyone in range leaves the area. They have, like, weapons and equipment that Lysathi are not able to use magic themselves. Their auras have a deficiency of magic. But not everyone is born with the ability to use magic, but no Lysathi has the ability to use magic. But they are very skilled at making magical objects and devices. So they have, like, stuff that will cast magic for them. Generally, it will only have 1 or 2 spells per item, but that's what it is. But they don't know how to trigger the items to cast the spells. Relax, I say. That spell deactivates automatically as soon as everyone in its range leaves the area. I then go past the area where the trap had been activated before, and I turn around to face Hadrick. See? I say. Nothing to worry about. Let's get out of here. We grab the Lisathi weapons, and we begin to head back, following the exact same route that we took on our way here. As soon as we reach the corridor below the king's basement, Hadrick starts throwing rocks at the trapdoor above us in order to get the king's attention. A few seconds later, the trapdoor opens up, and the extensive ladder drops all the way down, just like before. It's going to be a bit difficult to climb this ladder while carrying these Lisathi weapons, Darren says. Can't you somehow strap them to your back like you did with your shield? I say. Well, the shield is made to be strapped to your back when you travel for extended periods of time, Darren says. These weapons don't have any straps, and the shield strap is not designed to hold any other weapons on it. You're both making this sound way more complicated than it really is, Hadrick says as he picks up the Lisathi trident. There's no need to carry these all the way with us. I could just throw them through the hatch. He then shouts loudly to make sure that Golmick can hear him. Hey, Golmick! Hadrick shouts. I'm going to throw some things your way. Make sure some of them have pointy ends. Hey, Golmick! Hadrick shouts. I'm going to throw some things your way. Some of them have pointy ends. Make sure you stay away from the trap door. The gnome gives an okay sign with his hand, and then Hadrick starts tossing all the weapons through the hatch. As soon as he's done, we all climb the extensive ladder, one by one, and once we reach the king's basement, the trapdoor closes itself back up behind us. I think we're close to the end. If not, then I'm gonna have to end soon. Should I take it that the Lisathi are all dead? The king asks us. Yeah, we took them all out, I say. Extraordinary, Golmick says. And not a single scratch on any of you either. I'll admit, I'm impressed. Just make sure you keep up your end of the bargain, Darren says. We don't want to see any more slaves on the streets when we come back to this city. Of course, Golmick says. I will begin making preparations for the abolition of slavery first thing tomorrow. I only wish there were something else that I could repay you with for your help. Given that the mission I have sent you on is a secret, I cannot give any official reason to the treasurer that I would justify offering you a reward. Hey, there's no need, I say. We're the ones who volunteered for the mission in the first place. If we wanted a payment, we would have asked for it from the get-go. Still, I wouldn't want you to leave empty-handed, the king says. Hold on. I think I've got something that might be of use to you. He then disappears under his workbench, and he reappears 10 seconds later with a small device in his hand, which only has a screen and a button. This device will help you out This device will help you find out if someone is a Lisathi or a human, Golmick says. You simply press this button while aiming the device at someone, and the writing will appear on the screen. And the writing that will appear on the screen will tell you whether they are a Lisathi or not. I made it a long time ago, back when I couldn't differentiate between the the auras of humans and Lisathi with my magical sense. I haven't really used it in years, so you can have it if you want it. Take the device, refuse the king's offer. I don't see any reason that Smartberry would take away free help. Or would refuse free help. I mean, it's given without any strings, could be helpful. Yeah. So, if anyone would like to give me a very persuasive argument of why not, and it's the majority, y'all have about a minute. Otherwise, I'm going to take the device. And the way that I do this is I know that people like sleeping during this, so I'll read out the options. It's a good Smartberry read through, so that's what we're going to go with if it is that. But I give y'all about a minute to decide in case people just want to sleep and don't want to say anything. That is true. I don't need to wait the full minute. You would be over-encumbered if you took it? Well, fortunately, he's got an enchanted backpack that holds infinite amount of space. In fact, they all have enchanted backpacks. Because Darren is an enchanter. I want a tool to detect demons. Sheesh. Scary motherfuckers. They're not demons, because Barry and Layla are both Lisathi. It's just like a race. It just happens to be that the organization of Lisathi kind of sucks. They're very corrupt. They're very elitist and corrupt. We'll take it, I say. I am not sure how much use we'll get out of it, but you never know. So, about these Lisathi weapons that Hadrick threw into your room, Darren says. Ah, yes, Golmick says. Let me have a look at them. I tried to get the shield to activate, but I couldn't find any switch on it. I say, as the gnome studies the Lisathi weapons closely. Well, it's no wonder, Golmick says. These weapons have clearly been designed to only work in the hands of the individuals that they were tailored for. If you don't have the exact aura signatures of the Lisathi who were using these devices, I doubt that you could get any use out of them. This measure was probably taken in order to avoid having their enemies use their own weapons against them. So, they're completely useless, then, I say. Not entirely, Golmick says. As weapons, they have no use. But if I disassemble them, I might just find some parts that I could use on some of my other devices. Oh, I say, speaking of your devices, I just remembered that I overheard the Lisathi say something important about that telepathic device of yours while they were still in the meeting. It turns out that they are the ones that sabotaged the device in order to delay the first round of the tournament. From what I can understand, it seemed that they had some sort of plan that they needed to carry out until the beginning of the first round, and that they needed as much time as possible to get it done properly. But things didn't really seem to work out in the end because a lot more mages died than they were expecting, which messed up their plan somehow. Golmik says. I definitely remember them trying to convince the other kings to insert a rule in the tournament where the participants couldn't kill each other unless the rules explicitly required them to. So it was sabotage that caused the malfunction. That would explain why the device was behaving so erratically no matter how many times I tried to tinker with it. How interesting. This information will certainly help me to fix the device faster. Thank you for letting me know. You heard what the Lisathi were discussing during the meeting? Darren asks me. Yeah, I could hear them from far away thanks to the hearing stat, I tell Darren offhandedly. So anyway, I guess we should be taking our backpacks then. It's getting late and we still have a feast we need to attend to. All right, the king says. Remember to not say anything about your secret message while you are outside this room. The Lisathi might be dead, but their spies are still alive and kicking. Many of them will probably leave the city as soon as they find out that they no longer have any employers to pay them. But some of the more loyal ones may seek revenge. And you won't want to get yourself or any of your friends targeted by any of these assassins. I will have my own spies and assassins deal with these more loyal followers of the Lisathi in due time. But for now, we should all be careful. Yeah, we'll be careful, Darren says. Oh wait, no. Yeah, we'll be careful, Darren says. Good luck on your travels, Golmik says. And remember that you will always be welcome in Thilius should you choose to visit the city again. Okay, I'm gonna end here. I'm tired. It's late. Oh, right. To chapter 7. Cool, yeah. Okay, well, we had a lot more people during all of that. That was a lot more fun. That was more fun than you expected it to be. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Yeah, that was more people than we've had for Magium in quite some time. I think it's a really cool story. So, as I said at the beginning of the Magium part, if there's anyone... Good morning, Skenya. I'm really glad that you guys enjoyed that. I'm really glad. If you guys would like to catch up on the story on your own and don't want to play it yourself, all of my previous readings are in a Magium playlist on YouTube. If you would like to play it yourself, it is free on both Android and iOS, and it's really good, and there's a lot of different paths you could take. So... on YouTube? Cool. Awesome, thank you. It was just getting good too. I think you should read the third book. The author just finished the third book, so like the last chapter of the third book was released last month, or maybe even the beginning of this month, and it was so good. It's called Magium. This is what the app cover looks like. You like my OnlyFans? Thank you. Note the space in the middle. Oh, awesome. Well, if you do talk about it, or if you do download it and play it, please tell me, because it makes me really happy finding out that other people have started playing it themselves. Yeah, okay. Alright, so I'm going to end here. Tomorrow slash today is Wednesday, so I'm not going to be streaming. I should be streaming again on Thursday, and I will be continuing Resident Evil 2 Leon B. So, when you download, yes, it does start from the first book. It starts from the first book, and there are achievements. It's completely free, but to get to the second book, you either need to pay like $2 or you can reach 25 achievements, which means you'll probably have to replay a couple times. Or, I mean, there's lots of different save spots, so you can try and, yeah. So, and once you pay the $2, you don't need to worry about paying again, even once you get to the third book. Or you can just keep replaying it and get multiple achievements, which I think is worth it. I mean, you'll have to take that up with the author. Okay, so once again, thank you, Ali, thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate you joining, and I really appreciate you guys sticking around, even though I'm sure that this was not what you were expecting when you initially joined. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you guys on Thursday, and I'll probably see you guys on different people's Twitches tomorrow. So yeah. Oh yeah. But I'm a nut. You came here for Skyrim, got Minesweeper and reading. Thank you for hanging out. It really means a lot to me that you joined. So yeah. Have a good day or night or whatever it is, wherever you are. You all are wonderful. I appreciate you. Good night.